We're going live for YouTube and ready to rock and roll for the podcast. Rescan audio devices. Oh, make sure that we turn off that one so no echo. There we go. All right, here we go. Ready?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Woo! Welcome, ladies and gents, on this beautiful Tuesday, San Diego afternoon. And it is nicer than it was yesterday. Still a little overcast, but clear. I can see all the way to the ocean from here, so it's a clear day. That's how I can tell.
You can almost always see all the way to the ocean.
Except when it's a cloudy day, right?
Oh, really foggy.
Hernan Cias here, host of the Business Bros podcast with my co-host,
the insurance bro, James Cias with Pipeline Insurance.
And we got a show for you today, as usual.
We've always got a show.
Who's our guest today?
Today, we're excited to have from Keller Williams and the Enriquez Group, Mr. Vinnie Enriquez.
How's it going, guys?
How is it going? Thank you.
It's funny how it's really chill. It's really cool. I try not to say nothing before the show, but when the show clicks on, that's it. Now you're not gonna be. Now you can't shut me up. Now it's on. All right, ladies.
Full on
gents.
energy change.
Yep. But before we get started, 365 pairs of shoes is what we're looking for. So if you have gently used pair of shoes, you have new shoes you want to donate, you have cash you want to donate, hit up James 619-884-0045 or James@ciasfirst.com and hop on his Harley right over there and pick them up. Shout out to Ryan Pereski.
Pashesky.
Whoops.
Uh-oh.
Hit that dismiss right there. That's my alarm, by the way, to post on Instagram. So for those of you, yeah, there you go. That was proof that I set my alarms. It's just we're happy to do a 2 o'clock podcast.
Why 2:05 instead of 2 o'clock?
I just looked at my metrics on when people are on. Oh. And so I picked times based on when they were around. So that's what I picked. And like I have another one. It's usually around 12:15ish, but I set it at 12:45 just because I have to get out of school and eat and stuff like that. No. So some of them are convenient, some of them are like because that's what the metric says. So I don't know. I just figure put contact or put information out there as regular as possible. So I picked 4 times. Use some metrics, use some when I know that I have time available. So it's not like in the middle of dinner. And then the wife would get really pissed all the time. So it's business. Yeah. It's business, babe. It's business. She's all, I'm going to give you business. All right, ladies and gents, let's hop into this program. Vinny?
Yeah.
With Vincent.
No, please. Vicente is my given name, but I go by Vinny.
Vinny it is. Cool, Vinny. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit prior to this whole real estate gig.
So I was born in San Diego, moved around a lot, went to boarding school, and then went to high school here, went to college up in the Bay Area, lived overseas, came back, worked in the construction field, and then lived overseas again, and then came back here into construction.
Why all the moves?
I think every time you allow yourself to move, you can see who you really are.
So did you? That's actually a really good answer.
Deep.
But it's great insight, right? Like there's some people who are attached to home, right? They have like I know for a fact that I could never move. Me personally, I'm like a hermit crab. Like once I'm comfortable in an area, I don't have a need or an ambition to want to go anywhere. The wife, on the other hand, she wants to visit places. She just never wants to leave home because family's here. Yeah. Right. So everybody has their reasons why they will or will not move. What was the easiest thing for you to say? You know what? I'm leaving. Bye. And then again, bye. And then again, bye.
Well, I went to boarding school in 2nd grade, and so I went to boarding school from 2nd grade to 6th grade. And so at a young age, I knew what it was to just basically be on my own. Well, with my brother. And so I've always been okay with stepping out of my comfort zone. And one thing I realized is, and this is really getting philosophy, really deep right here, but the idea is that we all come from a bubble. It could be our community bubble, our family bubble, whatever it might be. But you only get to actually see what's you and what's your bubble once you're actually in a different community or a different bubble.
Problems cannot be solved by the same level of thinking that created them. Albert Einstein. That's an old quote. That's an old quote we used to use all the time at the intro to the show. Because you're absolutely right, though. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter whether it's your own personal bubble, as in you're dynamic, or whether you're in business and you're trapped, you hit a plateau. Yeah. Like it's not until you step outside and you have maybe somebody else take a look at the same problem or give you a ride along, what their day in life is, when you start to look at things a little bit differently.
Well, you allow yourself to look at the stupidest of idea. It could be as soon as you hear it, you're like, this is dumb. But when you can not give any kind of judgment to it and allow it to soak in, then you go, okay, well maybe there is something smart to it.
There's
maybe
some merit somewhere.
Merit to it. Yeah, okay. Let me just take that one piece of merit and change the way I look at this thing that I've been doing for the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever.
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's the small little. It's like when you're making something to eat and you forget to add the salt.
Yeah.
Right. Like you ever make cookies and forget the salt? Like you think cookies are sweet.
Yeah.
But salt is needed in order to give the cookie the offsetting sweet and
it's an enhancer.
It's the enhancer, right? Yeah. It's that little piece of ingredient. You forget that little ingredient, all of a sudden it's not a good cookie anymore.
Yeah, by itself, you go, this would be horrible. This would be horrible. But being that it's an enhancer, it actually pushes up the rest of the flavors.
Yeah, and that's how I kind of see the whole little merit. That might have only been a little piece of salt, but that little grain of salt made all the difference in the world. And how now it's fantastic. Now you take a bite and you're like, this is perfect.
Yeah. I haven't perfected that recipe, but the way you looked at it and the way you described that perfection right there, I want one of those cookies.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's a striving goal that we go to. So tell me a little bit about college life. You said prior to the show you did a little something different in college.
Yeah, so I think everyone, when they're in high school, they think they're the best athlete possible.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I went to the D3 school, still thinking I was the best athlete possible. And once I realized that my body was taking a pounding for no future gain, I got into the arts, and so I became a business and then mass comm major. And I first started in like college radio, and then I built out a college TV show that was kind of shut down for a while. And so I built a show. The show was called Whatever, and we did Whatever. So I did the backroom editing, and then I was one of the co-hosts of the show. So we did kind of like pre-tape stuff. It was kind of like Jackass, but also just little skits.
How long ago was that?
Oh man, it's been a while. That had to be now. So it was like 20 right there. So like 15 years ago.
Dude, that's funny because I'm just thinking about that in the time span of where we are today, technologically speaking, to where we were back then.
Oh yeah.
20 years ago was a big difference. So you might have had the Jackass show, but what did you do to market it compared to what you would have done today to market it? Like two different worlds. Like maybe it would have, right now you're saying, well, I had this little college show, but today little college shows could be worldwide shows.
Oh yeah. At that time we were looking at trying to get on late night, NBC, I think it was, but we had too much profanity. And so we were like, okay, we can cut that down. It was like pulling teeth too, trying to get the other people on the show, because I had to show them the editing board like before the show, because someone would like lose, like they wouldn't show up or something like that. And I go, okay, you over there, come over here. I'm gonna show you how to do this. All you gotta do is here, when I point to you, you put on this pre-tape video right there, this, and this. And so it was like pulling teeth the whole time. So just...
Well, you had limitations of like what the FCC would allow you to put on the air and that sort of stuff. That like barrier is almost completely gone. You could put pretty much anything online.
If we had YouTube, like, I don't even know if we had, but I mean, like, to the extent that we have it now, it would have just been a totally different thing. I might still have been in it.
So what guided you away from that? What did you learn from it? Where did you end up going?
So from there, I did that for basically 2.5 years, and then I studied in Czech Republic for a year, and then bartended and played American football out there. And then when I came back, it was just going to be too hard for like the last like semester or whatever to get back into it. And then actually after college, I was planning to move to LA to get into acting. And it's funny because I'm in the real estate field now, that I took it as a sign that we had everything. Me and my cousin had everything planned to move to LA. And the last second they told us that our credit wasn't good enough to actually get the
apartment.
The apartment. And so I took it as a sign that, okay, well I'm probably gonna move to LA. So I got into construction.
Dude, so you were playing football then?
Yeah.
What position were you playing, and what was your ambition there?
Well, again, I thought I was better than I was. I was a linebacker in high school and did a little bit of in college, but I kind of just went MIA on that. And then overseas, when I was doing over there, I did basically running back, but it was more of kind of like a pound, like kind of fullback style.
Yeah.
Running back.
Yeah, running to the wall first, and then
exactly.
Maybe you had the ball, maybe you didn't.
Yeah,
because you're a pretty big dude. Like you walked down, I was like, oh shit, this guy's pretty big. So I mean, it's cool. I can totally understand that. I mean, we all have the dedication, the ambition. We're working out every day. We're eating what we're supposed to. Yeah. We're full on dedicated to doing that. And then sometimes reality sits in, and you realize that you're good.
Yeah.
But damn, some of these people out there, like, what some of those guys are machines.
Well, I still remember it. So when we're playing in the European League, right? So the European League over there, what they did is they only allowed 3 Americans on the team at one time, and so only 2 Americans could be on the field at the same time. What some of like the German teams would do is they would get like people that had family heritage of like Germans or whatnot, and they would get dual citizenship.
So then they could be on the field.
Yeah, so we'd get some, like, I still remember there was this Division I player that he was playing for Texas. He was the inside linebacker, and I got the ball. The hole opened up, right? I run to that hole. He hits me. Oh my gosh, my neck has not hurt that bad for a while. I was like, okay, well, that's why I didn't play D1.
Yeah. But it's amazing how, I mean, you think you're in good shape, and then you come across some of these athletes.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because you can parallel that with business the way it is today. You think you're doing something really well, and then you sit in a room with some titans, some people who've been in business for maybe as many years as, if not more than you, or they've done and experienced things that you haven't, and you sit in the room and you feel like an idiot, like you don't know anything, even though you're very capable, you're very knowledgeable in whatever field that you're in. You sit in a room with some titans, and all of a sudden it's like your neck hurts or your head hurts, right? Because they're hitting you with stuff that you never even thought of.
Well, it really is. It's not even like titan. It's really mindset. Like, if you talk to someone, let's say in like the Midwest, right, that has to do just to survive 100 units, right, just to survive 100 units, and here in San Diego, like the average is what, like four deals a year, right? But probably surviving, I guess, off the business, you're gonna probably have to be like around like 15 to 20, somewhere in there, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're changing your mindset, like from the Midwest, that you have to do 100 units, right? You have to change the way you look at business. Like this guy was telling me how he does an open house. And he's like, okay, so I have myself, I have the buyer's agent, and I have my lender. So we have a streamline effect. So when the person comes in, if they have interest on it, they sit down with the lender. Then as soon as they sit down with the lender, basically they sit down with the buyer's agent. The buyer, he does a buyer's consultation with the person, signs the RPA all right there at the actual open house. And he goes, that's just how you do it. That's how you have to get to 100 units.
Well, I mean, doesn't it make sense? The person walking in the door is interested in buying. If they're not pre-qualified, your lender's there to pre-qualify them. If they're actually interested in buying, they're not only going to have time to see the one place, so your buyer's agent can get them an agreement and maybe even show them a couple houses that same day. You never know, could even potentially write an offer.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, the person is there because they're either they're ready to buy. Yeah. Their neighbor maybe thinking about selling, right? Or they're just looky-loos. But those are 3 options.
Oh, there are 3 options. And yet the idea is that most people look at it and go, okay, I'm here, like. And you, of course, the idea is that most people go, I'm gonna do open house. Like I get new agents like coach, and they'll be like, okay, I'm doing open house, so I'm trying to sell this house, right? I go, technically, no, you're not. Like the average home that sells off a open house is very minimal. Very minimal. And so the idea is actually, yes, you don't want to talk bad about the house that you're in, but you want to get these people that have interest in basically some kind of real estate transaction and help them find a property that fits their needs. And just the ability of changing, okay, I'm gonna have this buyer's consult here, I'm gonna have the lender here, pre-approval, so on and so forth. It's something that most of us don't do because we don't need to do it to get that 20 deals.
Well, what about the pre-marketing that you do for that open house to get people in the door?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're doing door knocking, you're doing cold calling, circle prospecting, you're doing the mailers. Sometimes people do they do the taco trucks, whatever it might be, outside the box. Think like you did that video right there. I bet you do some wild stuff, for.
Oh, dude, it's
also outside the box thinking. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, anything to grab attention is really what it is. So, by the way, ladies and gents, Vinny's talking about the parody video that I just received from Visionary Media. So I played it because I got it right before our podcast started. So Vinny was actually one of the first people to see it. So
exciting.
Did you laugh?
Yes.
All right. So my biggest thing is always if you laugh, you got to share it.
I don't want to be a bearer of bad news. You mean your voice though?
Oh yeah.
It needs a little work. It's not Beyonce. It's good though. It's good. I'm telling you, it's good video. No, he's no Beyonce.
100% true. 100% true. I realized that this is the second video I did, and the first video I did, it was the Old Town Road one, and I recorded the whole thing and I played it back. I was like, I sound way better when I'm in the car by myself over somebody else's beautiful voice.
Yeah, exactly right.
You just need to come to karaoke more. That's all.
Yeah, sure. More practice. No, I don't. No, I totally agree. But again, it's just in good fun, and it's a matter of grabbing the attention, right? And that's kind of.
Well, some people are afraid even just to get on camera.
Yes.
Like, and you're doing a video right there, and there's gonna be some people that are gonna probably make fun of it because they make fun of me when I do like videos like that. But the reason they're making fun of it is because they don't have the
balls.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I'm like, cojones, balls. What should I say?
You're good.
To actually do it, and so it's easier for them to make fun of you than to actually to do it themselves.
Yeah, but even to make fun of it's cool. I mean, I'm okay with that. Leave me a comment, make fun of it. It's okay. Yeah. The point is, I have your attention. Yeah. You saw it, right? Yeah. And if it interests you,
it's gonna be memorable too.
It's gonna be memorable. You're gonna see it. You're gonna want to share it. You're gonna talk about it. Yeah. Now, my Business Bros logo. The thought of what I do is now in your head. Yeah. And that's really, really what it comes down to, right? I mean, we always talk about this. It's get in front of enough people, tell them what it is you do. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Right. That's the extent of your marketing. Whether you're doing an open house, whether you're door knocking, whether you're on the phone, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on video, it doesn't matter. It's all the same type of thing. Yeah. Stay top of mind as best you possibly can.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, all right. When did you finally decide to get into real estate, and why this animal? You were in construction.
Well, so I was in a laborer. I was doing paperwork. So I watched the guys, laying concrete like that. I was like, fuck, that's a tough time right there.
That's real work.
Yeah, that's man's work right there. So now I was in construction, and then I got an opportunity to work in Afghanistan. So I did a year in Afghanistan for construction.
Ooh, that's nice tax-free money, except for the huge risk of death.
If you don't think about it too much, you're fine.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah, but tax-free though.
Tax-free though, right? Tax-free.
Tax-free. It was like first 98,000 tax-free. Yeah.
Yeah. Good times.
Just the first $100,000.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's funny though. Like some of the people that would actually do that. So you get like either based off of your contract, you get 3 months or 4 months, and then you get like 2 weeks off to go wherever you want. They'd fly you wherever you want to go, and then you basically enjoy yourself, and then you go back on the job site, right? So some of these people, like you talk to them, they're spending the money they just took on for those 3 months
in the 2 weeks.
And you're like, oh my gosh,
it's called deployment.
It's funny because he did 8 years in the Navy, well, almost 8 years. 7
years, 7 months, 21 days.
There you go. Yeah, that's what happens when you're in the military. And it's funny because we've always since we were 19, 20 years old, we bought our first house, and we've always started our business education really started right about that point. And we've always talked about financial responsibility and doing all those things. He joins the Navy, and at least we got him to buy a place, right? While he was in there using his VA. But for the most part, I was like, so how you doing? He's like, well, this weekend. Well, so how much you put away? Well. But that's the answer you get from these guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it though. They're out there, like you said. They're out there on, whatever it is in a country that doesn't want them there, doing a job that's probably really difficult and hard. Yeah. And they get the 2 week break and they just blow steam.
Oh yeah, it's hearing some wild, interesting stories.
Yeah, there's some wild stories for sure. So all right,
we won't get into any sea stories here.
Yeah. Well, we want to keep it like regular rated. I don't know. R-rated, regular rated, not like.
Well, just get me an Adam in here, start telling some stories, and it'll go off the rails real quick.
So you decide to. So obviously that life wasn't for you for too long.
Yeah, no, I knew it was the ends to a means kind of thing, and so when I got back here, I knew I was going to give it full force in real estate. And so I got back into San Diego because I wanted to make a home for myself in San Diego because I've been lucky enough to travel and live in other countries, but I knew San Diego had the best of everything that I've kind of was able to take on in other places.
Yeah, we're 20 minutes from everything.
Oh yeah, the only thing, and I always tell people all the time, the only thing that I wish we would have is public transportation. We have with Lyft now, it makes it a lot easier, but it's just so much nicer in Europe, like that, when you can actually just jump on. And then
the train, subway, whatever.
Never have to drive a car, anything like that. But yeah, I knew I wanted to kind of make a life in San Diego. So I came back here, San Diego. I partied for about a month and then just jumped into real estate.
So you blew it in 4 weeks instead of 2. All right. So you end up going getting your real estate license. What was that like? Did you have any experience in it before? Like you just jumped into it, you thought, you know what, I'm gonna get in this thing, real estate. I heard you can make a ton of money. How was your experience?
Yeah, so actually when I was in college, I did a internship for Marcus & Millichap, their commercial real estate company, and I did that in college for a semester. and I was like, I'm not getting into real estate. I'm never getting into real estate. Right? And so
never say never.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't have experience with it. My sister and my brother at the time, they had the real estate license. They weren't really using it to the extent, but they had it, and I just knew that was going to be the avenue to allow me to put whatever I did into something and get the return out of it, instead of actually being based off the merit of a relationship with a boss or whatever it might be. So I just went full force into it.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk to I teach high school in the morning.
Yeah. And
so I got kids that are like, hey, I'm going to get a job. It's going to pay me, $15 an hour. I'm like, cool. So you're worth $15 an hour.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, no, I'm worth more, but you agreed to $15 an hour. So you literally are saying this is what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And they kind of look at me like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm really just trying to drop that little hint in their head. Like, you decide what you put into it. You decide what you get out of it. And if you're agreeing to that, then, don't complain later on. Is my biggest thing. It's you agreed to that. Yeah. There's opportunity elsewhere, but it takes a different type of work ethic. If you want to exchange your time for money, this is the value that you're setting for yourself. Yeah. And you're right. Real estate has a huge upswing, right? You can really work your butt off and really do some great things. But it doesn't come, cheap when I'm talking about time, right? It doesn't come cheap.
Well, so there's always some way to skin the cat, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some people they'll hustle and do the same thing every single day, or hustle and do this X, Y, and Z every single day. And there's other people that think outside the box, like the idea of a podcast is definitely outside the box. Idea of understanding social media, Facebook ads, whatever it might be, is outside the box. So there's a way of working hard and working smart. And so when you can incorporate those both together, that's when gold's made.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me about your social media experience so far. What are you guys doing with it?
So it's actually it's so funny. So when I would see people for like social media, Instagram, those kind of things, and they're taking pictures of themselves, doing that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be the person. Like when I first got into the business, all I wanted was to have Vinnie. That was the extent of it. Like I didn't want my face on anything. I didn't want any of that stuff. I was just like, I just don't want that.
You were going to be a movie star, dude.
I know. So it was like, I just like, I'm all about, I can't stand fake. And there's just so much fakeness out there in this world. And that's how I perceive social media, is that people give that false bravado to their platforms. And I was like, I never want to be perceived as fake. I want to be as real as possible. And so when I see that stuff, it was a negative connotation to myself about putting my face out there and doing those things that I was starting to correlate myself to those people that I perceived as being fake, right? And also going to, like, as you probably know, going to networking events, you'll meet people there that they'll tell you their truths, right? Of like, I'm crushing this business, but you can look at everyone's numbers and see what they actually do. And so I took that at face value, and then I started looking at people's numbers and going, that person that told me he was blowing up the system, he just did one deal in the last 8 months, or he's done 5 deals in the last 3 years, 4 years, or whatever it might be. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, man, everyone's BSing me. Everyone's telling me, they're false truths.
But they look clean, right? They have their hair nice. They got a nice suit on. They drive the nice car.
Well, and that's what someone told me. He goes, when you go to a networking event, usually the person that's dressed the best is probably doing the worst, and the person that's doing the worst is probably doing the best. And so I was like, wow, okay. I mean, maybe not to that extent, but it gives you at least an idea that the person just doesn't care. It's probably doing really good for themselves, right?
Dude, blew my mind when in 2000, the end of 2005 or somewhere in 2006, our first company that we ever started, it closed it up, right? Yeah. We basically, this is where I learned about filing tax returns. This is where I learned about, commitments to long-term marketing contracts, to leases, all these things that I didn't know of, I was young. And we pretty much closed out this business and like broke, right? Yeah. First thing I enrolled in was tax school, because I was like, who's Uncle Sam? Why is he taking all my money, right? Yeah. And so I enrolled with H&R Block, and my intention was to go in, get my tax license, go out and start my own thing. Yeah. But somebody was like, why don't you stay with Block for like a year or two? That way, if you make any mistakes, it's under this umbrella. Yeah. So I got to meet all kinds of new clients there. Yeah. And one of the first things I learned, I had a client that came in, made like $300,000. Yeah. And the dude walked in, and he's like in jeans, dirty shirt, like messed up hat, sits down, gives me his paperwork. I didn't think nothing of it until I started looking through his stuff. I'm thinking, holy crap, like the person sitting in front of me is not what I visualized as the person who I'm filing their paperwork for, right? The paperwork says one thing compared to the visual that I see in front of me. Yeah. And that has always stuck with me after that. It's one of those, like, literally, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, you don't know what's behind, what's in their wallet or what's in their background. Just, and the ones that did look flashy, like you said, I mean, it's totally different.
Yeah, so, like, who was it? I think it was a comedian making a joke about it. But you can usually see the same level of cars in a poor area that you can in a really nice area.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like one's leased and one's basically owned.
Yeah, the Rolls Royce that pulls into the apartment parking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, oh, damn.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it was that. So, and then getting, like, so I was like, okay, I'm not about that. I'm not about that life. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was talked into it. Maybe, like 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago. I was talked into actually having my face on stuff, doing social media stuff. And so it's been kind of a learning experience of leverage points. Actually building a team has been something different than just a solo agent, because I can grind with the best of them. Like I've lived that life. Like when I was in Afghanistan, we would work 7 days a week, with Friday being a half day and then 1 day full day off every month. And so I'm fine with grinding and doing whatever needs to be done to get things done. But you can't force people to do this stuff, right?
But you doing it is different than other people. Getting other people to buy into that sort of concept. I mean, you can get people to work relatively well for, I'd say, maybe 20, 25 hours a week. Yeah. Like actual solid work. Yeah. But beyond that, I mean, they might sign up for a 40-hour work week, but if you can get 20, 25 solid hours out of them, you're doing good.
Well, and you can't, you have to, like from what I understand and sort of realizing is you can't push those people to do that. You're helping them get to where they want to get to. So they have to have the motivation, the want to actually get there, and then you're supporting them on their goal to get there. Yes. But if you start pushing people and saying, what are you doing? Like, come on, what are you doing? It's not going to work.
Well, that's the difference between being a good leader and being a drill sergeant. Because the drill sergeant, they'll get you to an end game, but you're never going to want to do that again. Yeah. Right? A leader is going to get you to the end game, and you're going to want to wake up the next day and do it over again and do it over again and do it over again. That's, I think, the qualities of a good team. That and making sure that you're running a team that's efficient and actually profitable. Yeah. Because that's a tough thing. Like, I know there are tons of teams out there, and they don't really talk about this in a brokerage. Yeah. You don't go into a brokerage and talk about, well, what's the bottom line profit margin? Are you even making a profit? If I take out the team leads production, is the team profitable? Yeah. Like, you have to really look at those sorts of things. Otherwise, why are you building a team if that's the case? Because you're probably better off, like you said, grinding yourself and getting closing deals, because you're probably much more profitable with like a transaction coordinator and an admin and you. Yeah. Right? I mean, let's bottom line it, right? Yeah. So you can build a good team. It's just sometimes you got to really step back and say, what am I building it for?
Well, yeah, and that's definitely something that I always assessed, is looking at it. Okay, well, where do I want to be in 5 years, right? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? Okay, am I going to be able to get there as a solo agent, or am I going to get there? If I'm not going to get there as a solo agent, then how do I get there? And I got to build a team. I got to build leverage points. I got to build. It's either people, it's either systems, whatever it might be. And especially with systems, if you're adding on that extra overhead, right? Most of that stuff is pretty much a fixed cost. There are some variable costs with it. And having that fixed cost right there by bringing other people on, it doesn't really affect you. The only variable cost becomes your time putting into them, or if there's extensions of it like Mojo platforms, whatever else you're purchasing off it. But majority of the bigger things are fixed costs. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest cost, the biggest variable cost is your time. Like you're saying, like, okay, do I put it into a prospect or do I put it into training?
But even the fixed costs, dude, like right now things are great. Things have been hot. Things are good. Yeah. So taking on some of these fixed costs are okay. But again, like over time, like, if things change, if the market shifts and all of a sudden agents are like, well, you know what, these 4 deals, 5 deals a year, 6 deals a year, I'm now only closing 1 or 2. Maybe I'm not going to do this very much longer. And 80% of the agents drop out after 2 years. So if all of a sudden you start losing agents in your team, the production's not there, your cost is still fixed. Yeah. Now you have to make it up. Now you're covering the overhead of an offense. You're covering the overhead of, keeping the lights on. You're covering all this other extra stuff, and it's coming out of your production. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm not knocking teams by any means. I'm just saying you have to really look at it a little bit different.
You have to totally assess it. No, I totally agree with you. I think there's some people that go, okay, I want the team just for
notoriety.
Exactly, notoriety. But reality is, what is notoriety is not going to give you a nicer car, a nicer house, basically a warm place to live. You know, it might make you feel good for a moment.
Yeah, but tell me,
in the end,
how many people do you know, like in you know, not in our industry, just in regular corporate America, they take a title almost next to a pay raise, right?
Yeah.
Like almost like if you give me a title and don't give me a pay raise, well, you know what? I mean, you know, I'm higher up. I feel a little better. You've acknowledged me as an individual, that I have relevance and I'm important, right? It's our own ego doing that essentially, but that happens over and over and over again, and I think that's something that many people will fall prey to, even in our industry.
Well, yeah, it's and maybe it's changed, but I mean, I don't think it has. Like I still remember there was in college we were talking about that. And we're dissecting the idea, what would someone rather have? Would they rather have a pay raise, or would they rather have basically a title or their word heard? And majority of people just wanted to be heard, wanted to feel like they were a part of that ship.
100%. And I think, you know, earlier you were talking about I mean, we come from, I think, a very similar generation of age-wise anyways, where I didn't have until about July last year when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
I had a Facebook and I had a Twitter. I didn't have an Instagram.
Yeah.
But I did it because, you know, I used it like an email. If I was going to get invited to something in the family, it was going to come through a Facebook invite. You know what I mean? And if I got a Twitter because somebody said I should get a Twitter, and I got it really early, but I never used it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I put it this way: my Twitter handle, the business one's at Business Bros Pod, but I have a personal one. It's at Great One. So for you to get Great One as a name, right?
Yeah.
I locked it in pretty early. I think it was like 2008. I think is when I got my Twitter. So, but I didn't use it, and and the same thing. I was like, well, nobody needs to know what I'm doing. Why is it important for everybody else to know? But again, it's that the people who it was that notoriety. It's you know, I always say the stories is our vanity point. People are literally putting this out there saying, look at me and look at what I'm doing, and they love it when you acknowledge that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was like, so it's talking about that. Now I have 3 Instagram accounts. You know, I have I have like Facebook, business pages, all the different stuff, LinkedIn. But it's one of the things in this climate, in this where everything's going, that's the way you separate yourself. But
let me ask you, your mind shifted a little bit. It wasn't so much, you got over the sense that, yeah, you have to put your image out there, but it was more of, well, this is how I market myself. Yeah. This is how I generate leads. This is how I put my, you know, what my product or service is in front of more people. So you kind of accepted yourself. You kind of like put it in your own head that to market myself, I would normally shake somebody's hand anyways. Yeah. I would say hello to them. I'd knock on their door. I'm just doing this on a new billboard, right?
Well, no, I totally agree. And one of the things that I looked at was the idea that more and more in the real estate profession, and probably other professions too, we're becoming more of a commodity, right? So you have to find a way that's going to differentiate yourself, especially as we go farther and farther in the future. If you stay in the same kind of race that you're currently in right now, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, what is your value? What's the value you offer? Now, if you have basically this vision, this tunnel that's solely focused on whatever you say, and you have a big community of people that are staring at this that you have to offer, how powerful that is to say, all right, you know what? Yes, I understand there might be some kind of idea of a commodity here, yet imagine your property, or you looking for a property, and how many people I can touch to say, hey, who do you know that needs this, or who do you know that wants that?
Exactly. It's an audience of people that know exactly what it is you do. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. I like to throw wrenches in what people think, right? So at the school I teach in Sweetwater Union School District, right? Yeah. And so they had this whole budget crisis, and there's a lot of teachers like, oh, what's going to happen? I'm like, you guys do understand that your job is not secure. Yeah. Like if Facebook and Google and all these, you know, big companies said this is what we need in a student that graduates, if they have these qualifications, you know, they can come work for us. Yeah. And some private company came in and said this is what we're offer so that you can do that. all of a sudden, like, you don't have such security. So you guys should be thinking about that. I say the same thing in real estate. I'm like, buyer's agency is on its way out the window.
Yeah.
That's a commodity thing. It's going to get to the point where a buyer's agent is going to have to negotiate like the seller's agent does for their own commission.
Yeah.
And how are you going to sell that to a buyer that's going to say, hey, by the way, you're going to buy this house and you have to finance an extra $10,000 for my commission. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden it's a different, what value are you bringing to that client? Are you worth the commission that you're doing? Because right now, as a buyer side, it's pretty much half of whatever the seller side negotiates.
Yeah.
Well, with the Redfins, with the Zillows, and all these other people, I get emails now saying, hey, there's this property. Would you like showing it? By the way, in fine print right there at the bottom says, we don't pay buyers commissions.
Yeah.
So, right now it's zero, and, agents might hate it. They might argue with it, whatever. But it's a trend, and it's a trend that's working in that direction. And if you're not seeing that trend, you could be a casualty of that. You know what I mean? And that's, speaking of teams, that's another one of those aspects. I'm like, you have a lot of buyer's agents. What if all of a sudden you can't pay buyer's agents because there's no commission on that side?
Yeah.
How do you negotiate that? What does that look like for your business model going forward?
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, like, factor in, okay, let's say, I don't know, Purple Bricks or one of those platforms right there that they're trying, or Redfin, right, where they're giving back X amount of commission, right? I think the extent of it, when you become more of a kind of McDonald's, right, where you show the person this and the other person negotiates it, everyone does so on and so forth, right? There's less of an understanding of what the other hand's doing, right? So if, let's say, the buyer's agent that's educated on the process or educated on what to be aware about, or aware of of looking at the property, they have that understanding, they have that knowledge base, they know how to protect that person, like. And they're not coming from scarcity, hopefully, if they at least have enough business. Like, I've heard horror stories where, like, they'll be like, verbally, the listing side will tell the buyer side, hey, this right here, I want to know it wasn't permitted, or this wouldn't happen, or whatever it might be. Yeah. And then they tell the person, hey, don't worry about it. No one's going to get you for whatever it might be, or just certain things where it's just like, hey, if you give them the pros and the cons of what possibly could happen, it makes, I think, it cleaner, because you're giving them actually.
Well, it gives them the choice to understand the situation, right? Whether or not, and that's why, for me personally, any type of transaction like that, it's got to be in writing, because that way the buyer or seller, for that matter, acknowledges it's written, you were disclosed, and I have evidence. Because anytime you deal with something that's verbal, even though we're human and we tend to be trusting, once the deal closes and something happens, and all of a sudden we have lawsuits and litigations and all that stuff, your word means nothing. What did you get signed? What was disclosed? What was initialed? That's the I mean, we're in a contract heavy industry, so get everything in writing for sure.
Well, and I think with, like, so Keller Williams, they started one. I think some of the other brokerages started it, where they actually have lending in house, and they're taking away any kind of fees if you use their agent. And so it's probably gonna be more over time to offset the idea that buyers actually get kicked out and not get paid, for these bigger companies to say, hey, we're gonna do everything in house. Yeah. So if you're gonna buy one of our properties, you're gonna work with our people if you want to save all this money right there.
And that's definitely something that, as an industry, right, as a company, they're doing to kind of block that sort of situation, to get it handled before it becomes a trend. Because I mean, honestly, you look in the MLS and you look at what the buyer split is. It used to be 3%, then 2.5%, then 2%, and I'm seeing ones. You know what I mean? Like, or flat dollar amounts, right? And it's not that it's trending up or staying level; it's trending down.
Well, the tough thing is okay. So most people that are looking for a property are probably, if they're motivated, they're probably working with an agent, right? Especially if they're first time buyers, right? If they're not first-time buyers and they've done it before, okay, that's one demographic, right? But let's say you're talking about first-time buyers. If you're an agent that's only doing 4, 5, 6 transactions, and you see one property that's giving 1%, another property is giving 2.5%, how are you going to sway those showings, or are you actually going to show?
I agree, but I'll play devil's advocate on the other side. Yeah, I saw it on Zillow. I want to see this house. Yeah, and you're the buyer's agent. What are you going to say? No. Right?
Well, there's definitely ways, and I'm not saying I do this, but there's definitely ways of convincing or portraying a property, of course, however you want to portray it.
Of course.
Right? Like, so if you're looking at 5 properties, right? Because just like no person's the same, right? No property's the same, right?
Absolutely.
So you have an understanding of what they're looking for, but you're more than likely going to be able to find 5 properties that are fairly similar
yes.
to that one right there, and relaying the positives and negatives in one way is going to get
your buyer to take action on one versus the other. I totally agree. I like to play devil's advocate, and I'm like, we live in an age of information where the information has been commoditized. It's like, I want to walk through the property. I probably can. Yeah. Sometimes I have properties where I don't even need an agent. Yeah. I have a specific, type of app that allows me to clock in and, do the key, and it's got virtual cameras to watch everything I'm doing. I can do the walkthrough myself, and then I'll hit up my agent and do, and those types of technologies are getting better and better.
I think so. More so the 3D tours are going to be like where you you put on the glasses or whatever, and you actually look in the property. Once that starts becoming like more of the norm, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, well then that's what I'm saying. Like, things are trending in a direction where you're right. The agent is being commoditized. Yeah. It's still on the listing side, I think, has a lot more power. And that's why when I talk to agents, I tell them all the time, you need to become a listing agent. Yeah. Like, hands down, you need to become a listing agent. That's where the power's at. By all means, continue to work with buyers. But understand that if you want to be in real estate long term, you want to be successful long term, you need to be on the listing side.
Well, look at the opposite way too, right? I always like playing devil.
Yeah, of course.
And so, but look at the opposite way. If you're helping someone sell a property, right, more than likely they're going to move out of the area, right? If they're looking to buy a property, they're staying in the area at least for some period of time. So if you stay in contact with, which most agents don't do,
no, they don't.
But if you stay in contact with that person, and what is it? Every 5 to 7 years, someone buys or sells real estate. You stay in contact within 5 years, you're going to have
another deal. Yeah.
So I mean, if it matters where you sit in the business right now, yes, you want to sharpen your tools for the sellers. Yet, it's not too bad to have a buyer, so you can basically add to your pipeline later on in life.
I 100% agree. But by the same token, when I have a sign in the yard, I can hold as many open houses as I want with my lender who can pre-qualify and my buyer's agent who can show. So, I think having the listing just controls it, because ultimately doesn't matter when the deal closes, as long as you were the agent when it closes is when you get paid, right?
Well, oh my gosh, and I don't know if you've seen it. You're starting to see more and more like shady stuff, I think, with listing agents, where they're looking for ways to double end it. One of my team members, actually, we were trying to get a hold of the agent, and for like, I think it was like 4 days or something like that. Just no response. And then finally, I think we finally got a hold of them, but it was, you can definitely read the writing on the wall where they were just trying to find a way to
close deal on both sides. Yeah, they had a deal. They had a buyer that they were trying to get through at the last
approval.
minute. Yeah. No, I mean, and that, to me, that's an ethical thing. That's like, come on, man. Like, you're always should be in the best interest of your client. Yeah. We're supposed to present every offer that comes to the table, right? And that's just part of what you do. You don't do that, or you cut corners. I think personally that's an integrity thing, and what goes around comes around, karma, right?
Well, and I think that's why we get a bad name, because you got to think that majority of people, if we're talking about like 4 deals a year or whatever, 4 deals a year, you're coming from scarcity.
Yes, that's true.
On everything you're doing. And so if you're coming from scarcity,
it is tough. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Dude, that's a mindset. That's a mindset, 100%. Yeah. But you are going to deal with those types of agents, and those are the ones where, like, it didn't matter what you did at the listing presentation, they were going to go with their cousin or with their sister because they have a license, and that person might not be the most qualified individual, but they're the person I know, right? And that's one of the biggest things that, I love about social media marketing, about getting your message out there. It's people are going to work with you if they know, like, and trust you. Yeah. Right. And if you're, that's the whole thing about, working your circle of influence and making sure your family knows that you're an agent, making sure that your family friends know that you're an agent, making sure that the public knows that you're an agent, because that's ultimately where your biggest deals are going to come from. And our job is to grow our sphere and stay in contact with our sphere. And to me, social media is one of those things that allows me to do that on a regular basis. Yeah. Put out funky videos and stuff. All right, dude. So I want you to look at this camera right here, the one where your calendar just showed up. Okay. And I want you to let them know, if anybody wants to work with you, Vinny, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to work with you?
I'm not taking on any more people. No, I'm joking. All right, give me a call.
Damn.
Give me a call, 858-345-7829. Again, 858-345-7829. Would love to earn your business.
Boom. Give him a shot, right? And you know what? It's like anything, one of the biggest things I tell a client, I'm like, look, dude, talk to all the different agents, right? Talk to them. You never know. Look, a house is going to get bought and sold right now. It's a hot market. It almost doesn't really matter. You want to work with somebody who's going to help you all the way through the process, who you get along with, who you connect with, and you're not going to know that unless you sit down and talk to them.
Well, so one thing that I'll tell people on, not necessarily on the listing side, because you need a time frame, probably at least 6 months on the listing agreement, but on the buyer broker agreement, if someone's having you sign for a year, right, in the buyer broker agreement, even sometimes 6 months, like, they're just trying to lock you in. Like, I've done it with people, right, where I'll sign actually what's my shortest one? 3 week buyer broker agreement. So I go, let me prove my worth, or let my team member prove their worth on those 3 weeks. And if we're not doing what we say we're doing, then hey, no harm, no foul, 3 weeks out of your time. But people that lock it in for 6 months, a year,
like, come on, man. Like, what are you going to be doing? You really want to drag this person along for 6 months or a year, saying they want to buy something, and what, you're not helping them? You're not getting them to the closing? Like, I don't understand that.
The best one I ever heard, it was on the listing side. I was calling expireds, and I called the person up. I know it was a cancel. And I was called the person up, and they had their property in the market for like 11 months. And so they got the cancellation on their property, but by signing the cancellation, the person made them sign a document saying that if they sold in the next year and a half, they had to pay a commission off it.
Sorry, you didn't do your job.
Read the fine print.
Yeah, you didn't do your job there, Mr. or Mrs. Agent. That's a long time, dude. How frustrated must they have been?
Well, because like most people don't look, like, it's crazy. Most people don't look at the fine print, or most people don't know what the fine print says right there. But like, if they would just looked at it, instead of getting...
You could have backed out. Just...
So anyways, but yeah, give me a call, 858-345-7829.
Don't struggle. Don't let it sit for a year. Hit up a professional. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Vinny, thanks a lot for being on the show, man.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Who do you think would be a good guest to have on the program?
I think... So there's an artist. So he sells his artwork. I think Michael Carini. I've had him on my podcast. I'm actually on the second time later this week, but he has an interesting story where he was like beaten up pretty severely, and that's kind of what his work is played off of now. Like
physically beat?
Yeah, physically beat up, and he was in the hospital, and the first thing he woke up to was this like picture, and that's like his logo now.
Crazy, dude. Yeah, that sounds like a good story.
Yeah, no, he's and like he was I think he was like a couple weeks away from actual being homeless. And he had this famous actor reach out to him, trying to buy his art. And he didn't call the actor back up for like 2 weeks. And then the guy called him back again. He goes, I want to buy your stuff. He got a hold of him, bought his art, and actually helped him build a following base. Like all the actor's following base started buying his stuff.
That's crazy, dude. That is a good story.
Yeah, so
we're going to have to definitely hit him up. So we're going to tag you on the post. I mean, we shared it with you.
Yeah.
Make sure you tag him and be like, hey, I think you'd be a good story.
Yeah, no, definitely I will.
Sweet. All right, ladies and gents.
Wait, don't I get to ask you a question?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Dude,
nice.
What? Hey, good save.
Well,
good save.
It's
new.
Oh, it's a new thing?
This is brand new.
You're the first.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, man, so they got some pressure on this one.
Yeah. No pressure, no pressure. The answer is no.
So wait, were you both in the military?
No,
Not
he
just
was.
me.
Okay, you were in the military?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So, and how long you been real estate for?
4 years.
4 years.
Well,
that was a waste of a question.
Yeah, that was a
waste. Oh wait, that was a question.
We've been flipping properties since about 2009, but licensed for about 4 years.
Okay, so who has better taste, right? If one person had a property, right, another person had a property, and you had to flip it with their own separate crews, who would have a cleaner property when everything's said and done?
Oh, that's easy. That would have been me.
Oh, it'd be you. Okay,
yeah.
That's easy. Oh man, I was trying to get a little thing going.
No, well, it's because I make decisions like quick, like that color, and we're pretty basic.
Yeah.
Right. And he's got to get opinions, and he's got to make sure.
So you're saying by the time he closed escrow, you'd still not have your property on the market yet?
Pretty much, yeah. Probably.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that was easy enough.
That was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also depends because if I involve the wife, right? She likes to take her time and make her patterns and all this stuff too. But she does a really good job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't even show you the backsplash when you go downstairs. Like she wanted to do this particular backsplash, and like she was adamant, and like she got it. It took a while for the product to come in and get it all done.
You see how he did that right there? He was like, she take a long job, but she does great. She does great, mind you. She does great.
Yeah. She knows it too. She knows it too. All right, ladies and gents. Now that I'm in trouble, I'm just playing. 365 pairs of shoes by the end of the year. So if you got a pair of shoes, gently used, brand new, you want to donate cash, 619-884-0045 or james@csfirst.com. And if you have any insurance needs, life insurance, health insurance, commercial, personal, workers' comp, whatever it is, hit up James, 619-884-0045 or james@csfirst.com. And if you want to add insurance into your business, hit us up too. He'll hook you up with all that stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got for you guys today. Thanks again, Vinny. Peace.
Bye-bye.
And I'm out. Thanks, Facebook. We love you.
And we're out.
Good, huh?
Yeah, it was good, man.
Fun, dude. I love doing this sort of